Hello, my name is Sonali, and I welcome you all to this week's Sunday special episode of Around the World in 7 Days. The Russia-Ukraine conflict serves as a stark example of the numerous problems that war brings to human life and the world. Since its beginning last year, many troubles have surrounded the world. As soon as the war started, the world was surrounded by energy and food crisis. The conflict caused gas and petroleum prices to soar, while food supplies became scarce in many regions. The biggest reason for the shortfall in food grain supply is that both Ukraine and Russia are major exporters of food grains. These countries send their grains all over the world via Black Sea. However, as soon as the war started, the danger in the Black Sea region increased and the movement of grains began to be affected. The United Nations sensed this crisis well in advance. Therefore, in July last year, 4 months after the conflict began, Russia and Ukraine signed the Black Sea Grain Initiative with United Nations mediation. However, recently Russia has decided to withdraw from the agreement, creating further challenges for the global community. Russia's exit from the deal could lead to a serious food crisis in many African countries that are already grappling with famine. Now there are reports of soaring food grain prices in the region. Middle East countries can also come under its grip, and the price of food grains may increase across the world. After Russia's exit from this agreement, the tension between Russia and African countries is expected to escalate. In such a situation, there arises a question that why Russia announced its withdrawal from this agreement. Secondly, what will be the effect of this on food security and African countries? And thirdly, will Russia now have to face the displeasure of African countries? We will address all these questions, but first, let's understand why the Black Sea is crucial for the export of food grains. Both Russia and Ukraine share a coastline and conduct import-export activities through the Black Sea. The Bosporus Strait connects the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara, the Aegean Sea, and eventually the Mediterranean Sea, making it a vital and busy shipping route. Since Crimea is now under Russian occupation, which also borders the Black Sea, there were concerns about potential attacks on the movement of Russian and Ukrainian ships in the sea. To avoid such a situation, a grain export agreement was concluded. Since the Black Sea has a significant role to play in this, the agreement was named Black Sea Grain Initiative. This agreement was crucial because Ukraine is one of the major producers of many cereals, especially wheat. Ukraine is one of the world's largest grain suppliers. According to World Food Programme statistics, Ukrainian grain feeds about 400 million people worldwide. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, many countries feared famine. There was a threat of hunger crisis, especially in Africa and the Middle East. Food prices skyrocketed due to the Russian invasion. But this agreement brought a lot of relief to the countries of the world. It helped in keeping the prices of cereals low by 20%. But the recent withdrawal of Russia from the Black Sea Grain Initiative is expected to have severe repercussions on a global scale. Immediately after the announcement of Russia's exit, the price of wheat has seen a jump of more than 3.5% in the global market. Ukraine exported more than 32 million metric tons of corn, wheat, and other grains last year under the agreement. But now that this agreement has been broken, it is believed that it will affect many countries of the world, especially the African countries. In fact, in African countries such as Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and South Sudan, more than 50 million people are in need of food security assistance. This crucial situation has arisen due to years of inadequate rainfall in the region, leading to a threat of famine in these countries. In such a situation, it is believed that Russia's decision to withdraw from the agreement will have significant impact on these countries. One might wonder why Russia decided to back out of the deal, considering the significant impact it would have on numerous countries. In November of the previous year, Russia had announced its withdrawal. However, after much haggling, Russia came back under the accord. Russia then accused Ukraine of attacking ships belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet in the Crimean Peninsula. The attack caused significant damage to the bridge connecting Crimea, and Russia held Ukraine responsible for it. Now, Russia has given another reason for its withdrawal from the agreement. According to Russia, there are two reasons for withdrawing from the grain agreement. Firstly, Russia acknowledged its own inability to enhance the exports of food and fertilizer. Secondly, it accused Ukraine of not allocating enough portion of its grain exports to support poor countries. President Vladimir Putin argued to an African peace delegation earlier this week that the grain deal did not solve African countries' problems, as only 3% of Ukraine's grain exports reached the poorest countries. However, Ukraine refutes that, stating that about 64% of wheat goes to developing countries, while corn is exported almost equally to developed and developing countries. Additionally, Russia has raised concerns about Western sanctions impeding the export of its agricultural products. Therefore, Putin has categorically stated that Russia will join this agreement only when the Western countries lift the economic sanctions on Russia. It appears unlikely for African countries to become angered due to the recent developments. This is because Russia immediately announced to compensate for the grains being sent from Ukraine to Africa. The African Union had expressed disappointment regarding the termination of the agreement because it is going to affect Africa the most. However, Russia has said to provide food grains without charge. Nevertheless, it remains to be seen whether Russia comes back in this agreement or the countries of the world have to bear the brunt of it. Now it is turn of this program's Sunday special segment, in which we will delve into other significant international news. Recently, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India, during which both countries adopted the vision document. This vision plan is built upon 5 core pillars. These are maritime connectivity, air connectivity, energy and power connectivity, trade, economic and financial connectivity, and people-to-people connectivity. India will cooperate in the development of ports and logistics infrastructure in Colombo, Trincomalee and Kankesanthurai to strengthen maritime connectivity, regional logistics and shipping. At the same time, ferry services between Nagapattinam in India to Kankesanthurai in Sri Lanka and Rameswaram to Talai Mannar will also be started soon. For air connectivity, expansion of flights between Chennai and Colombo has been mentioned. On energy and power connectivity, both sides plan to set up a high-capacity power grid interconnection to enable power trade between Sri Lanka and other regional countries, including the BBIN, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal initiative. The two countries will also work on a multi-product petroleum pipeline from South India to Sri Lanka. Additionally, joint efforts will be made to explore and produce hydrocarbons in Sri Lanka's offshore basins, further developing the nation's upstream petroleum sector. Niger has recently joined the list of African countries facing frequent coups, as its army announced a coup d'etat that led to the removal of President Mohamed Bazoum from power. Giving a statement on national TV about this coup, he said that the constitution has been dissolved and all institutions have been suspended. Along with this, the army has also closed the borders of the country. This was done after the statement of the US and the UN Secretary General. Following his placement under house arrest, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken promised him unwavering support from Washington. It is noteworthy that Mali and Burkina Faso, two neighboring countries of Niger, have also experienced coups in recent years. Recently, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, further strengthening their relationship. This is Kim Jong-un's first such meeting after the COVID-19 pandemic. The representatives of both the countries discussed mutual matters related to defense and regional security and visited an exhibition of weapons including ballistic missiles. Let us tell you that this year North Korea is celebrating the 70th anniversary of the armistice that ended hostilities in the Korean War of 1950 to 53. In such a situation, the visit of the Russian defense minister to North Korea carries considerable importance. Around the same time, a Chinese delegation led by Li Hongzhong, a member of the Chinese Communist Party Politburo, also visited North Korea. North Korea's stance on the war in Ukraine has aligned with Russia, and it has placed blame on the US for the Ukraine crisis. So that was all for today. See you in the next episode. But before leaving, let's note down a practice question based on today's coverage. Why Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative will affect African countries the most? Evaluate.